Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Il me fait un grand plaisir pour faire bienvenue ce matin pour féliciter les auteurs de le rapport mondial sur la maladie Alzheimer 2021. It is my great pleasure and privilege to welcome you all to meet the incredible authors of the World Alzheimer Report for 2021. My name is Dr. Dolly Dastor, Chair of the Education Committee of the McGill Research Centre for Studies in Aging. And together with the Alzheimer's Society of Montreal and the Alzheimer Group, we are presenting this event. We indeed feel a great sense of pride and honor that McGill University was commissioned by Alzheimer's Disease International to deliver the next two editions of the World Alzheimer Report on the crucial and interrelated topics of diagnosis in 2021 and of post-diagnosis support in 2022. Diagnosis of dementia is still a major challenge globally, with an estimated 75% of cases still going undiagnosed and long wait times for diagnosis. And our pride and joy was doubled on knowing that this initiative was entrusted to our own McGill University Research Centre in Studies in Aging, the McGill Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences, specifically the Division of Geriatric Medicine, and to the Dementia Education Program, supported by the Office of Education Technology and Online Learning at the Steinberg Center for Simulation and Interactive Learning. Together, these departments are leading complementary initiatives devoted to prevention, diagnosis, management, education, knowledge dissemination, and support for caregivers. A very holistic approach indeed. This expert team was led by none other than our own Dr. Serge Gautier, with Dr. Pedro Rosanetto, Dr. Jose More, Madame Claire Webster, Dr. Tamara Ellen Carver, Zaina Salame, Carol Servae, Maria Vincelli, Diane Weidner, and Laila Zahabi. September 21st is designated as World Alzheimer Day. Hence, it was most appropriate that the report, Journey Through the Diagnosis of Dementia, was launched this morning, together with a global awareness-raising campaign, as September is the Alzheimer month. The McGill's team combined experiences and expertise in research, care, education, and lived experience in dementia-related illnesses has resulted in a tangible, meaningful, and inclusive report on the diagnosis of dementia. It includes over 50 essays from leading experts around the world and is supported by findings from three key surveys sent globally to clinicians, people with dementia and their care partners, the National Alzheimer and Dementia Associations. The report also includes personal testimonials from people living with dementia and the carers on the experiences of the diagnosis process and the information or lack of following diagnosis and the stigma attached to it. We invited you to learn more about this report this morning, which shines a light on the pivotal moment in the evolution of diagnosis and potential treatment breakthroughs. Today, we invited the authors to learn from them the process, the trials and the tribulations, and the nail-biting moments they had to go through to get this excellent international report completed on time. Please keep your questions ready and coming in the chat box. So let us start with our first illustrious author, Dr. Serge Gautier, who really needs no introduction, but Dr. Lorraine Mazzella Maiello, a long-standing member of the Education Committee, will introduce him formally.
Thank you very much, Dolly. I have been given the honor of introducing Dr. Gautier. He is a clinical neurologist with a gift for communicating complex concepts of the brain to the common man and to common doctors. He specializes in the development of new tools for diagnosis and treatments and for people living with Alzheimer's disease. He is the director of the McGill University Research Centre for Studies in Aging from 1986 to 1997. He was the first permanent director. and he became a senior scientist of the Canadian Institutes of Health and Research and the Canadian research-based pharmaceutical companies in 1997. Dr. Gautier is the academic co-lead for the Dementia Education Program and Professor Emeritus of the Neurology and Psychiatry at McGill University. His many accomplishments have led him to receive the prestigious Order of Canada in 2014 and the National Order of Quebec in 2017. So it is with my greatest pleasure I introduced my colleague and my friend, Dr. Gautier.
Merci beaucoup, Lorraine. Mille gracias. Bon après-midi, tout le monde. C'est un plaisir de vous expliquer un peu comment on a fait le rapport. So my task is to explain how we were able to do this within 6 months. My colleagues will fill in examples of what we found. This is a competitive bidding that we ran with Alzheimer's Disease International last fall. We found out around Christmas that we won the contract. It's a 2-year contract. This year we write about diagnosis. Next year we write about post-diagnosis management. The 6 months we had to write this, we had to put together surveys because that's a tradition in ADI reports. We also decided to use invited essays, short essays, about 1,000 words by experts on very specific topics. And of course, we had to survey the Alzheimer associations, the 107 associations affiliated with Alzheimer's Disease International. So that's the survey part, the essay. But more importantly, we had together the dream team. We've put together with Claire, José, and Pedro the content. So we decided to write something that would be useful for persons who are seeking a diagnosis, people who just had one, for clinicians who are experts, as well as clinicians who want to learn how to make a diagnosis. And we were also asked to write for people who make decisions, like in government. That was quite a big readership, potentially. So we finally ended up with 25 chapters in a 6-part document. So I'll let you peruse it, just to let you know that we were very lucky to be able to meet virtually every week as a team and every 2 weeks with ADI. So there was this interaction as we moved from the skeleton of the report to invite specific people to write short deadlines in the order of 2 months, which is very short. Surveys had to be created, done, collected, analyzed. And it was all pretty much ready by July for final editing and now release. Just to give you some specific numbers, Dr. Dastor already hinted at some of the numbers. We had 113 co-authors for the invited essays. So there were 52 essays, which range from frontotemporal dementia to biomarkers of the future. So I'll let you have a look at the report. They're all over the 25 chapters. And the surveys, also we were lucky. We had a very good turnout in the order of, I don't know if I have the numbers nearby. It's over 1,000 clinicians. To be accurate, 1,111 clinicians answered from 108 countries. That's important. The representativity of the clinicians who answered was a very nice surprise. It was also sort of balanced, 62% from high-income countries, 38% from low and middle-income countries. For the survey that was more for persons who've been through diagnosis or who have a diagnosis already and their carers, we have also big numbers. We have 205 people with the diagnosis of dementia and 2,102 carers from 83 countries. So that's quite also a representative sample. And 101 out of 100 7 countries linked to Alzheimer Disease International answered the survey. So also very representative sample. So what we have scattered through the 25 chapters are excerpts from the surveys, the most relevant items. I think Claire may refer to one of them about people who've been through the diagnosis. What did they miss the most? What could we do better for after diagnosis? I won't steal your thunder, Claire. I know what, and I think most people guess what it is. That's about it. We have a month now with the report being available electronically for free for the world to see. And then in a month, when we have collected some feedback, we will print it with some corrections and fine tuning. So that's it in a nutshell. I'll be ready for questions. Merci.
Okay, now we go to the next author, Dr. Pedro Rosanetto, my good friend from a long time, and the present director of the McGill Center for Research Studies in Aging. Pedro Rosanetto is a clinical neurologist with expertise in the quantification of dementia pathophysiology and preclinical diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease using biomarkers. He is affiliated with the Douglas Research Institute, le Centre Intégré Universitaire de Santé de la Services Sociaux, the West, the Île de Montréal, and the Department of Neurology and Neurosurgery, Psychiatry, Pharmacology, and the Therapeutics at McGill University. It's quite a mouthful. He was appointed director of the McGill University Research Center for Studies in Aging in 2017, and this was soon followed by professor position in neurology at McGill University in 2019. Pedro, please take it away. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much for this kind of introduction, Dolly. So it's a pleasure. And if I did some good work, it's not because only my willingness to do something good, but also because I'm in the right place in the right time. I had the opportunity to work with Dr. Gautier and all the members from the McGill Center for Studies in Aging, to have the opportunity to interact with the educational committee. I think it was an amazing opportunity. And also I was lucky under Dr. Gautier to get some funding to conduct some research on biomarkers. And I'm very happy. So this is on my side here. You can see the cover of the report. And the cover of the report are images of the brain showing the invisible. So these images, they are showing the disease pathophysiology, the aggregates of tau and amyloid deposit in the brain, things that until a while ago, it was impossible for us to understand and to guess. We were based essentially on the symptoms of the patients, and we could only make a diagnosis of the underlying cause of dementia by anatomopathological studies or anatomopathological examination of the brain in the microscope. And here I think it was an interesting progress, because in my perspective, and we are trying to bring this to the report, is that the report talks about dementia. And dementia is a clinical syndrome that doctors can do very easily. You don't need any of these technologies here to do a diagnosis of dementia. I have only to make sure that the patient doesn't have a secondary cause of dementia, something that we can treat, a treatable cause of dementia. And once the patient has a dementia, this is a clinical diagnosis. But with the progress during the last couple of years, we are able to understand that the dementia is a consequence of diseases that are going on in the silent phase in the brain for many, many years. And this is something that's extremely important, because this gives us a chance to identify these diseases in people without symptoms, and try by doing clinical trials to stop the progression of the disease and avoid the progression to dementia. So dementia, which was a big problem, becomes now a tip of the iceberg, and you have now to focus in therapeutics capable to stop the pathological process that leads to dementia. So the part of the biomarker in the report talks about this, talks about these possibilities to make diagnosis of the causes underlying the disease, and I think this is an important advance. So, and also, the report discuss actually the presence of the diagnosis of the dementia in populations like patients with Down syndrome and patients with early onset Alzheimer's disease, and try to explain what are the advantages of investigating the causes of dementia in these patients. So I think this is something that's extremely important. And another important aspect is that when everybody think about this technology, you always think that this is extremely expensive. This is only possible in high income countries, in these very specialized centers. But I think this field is developing very rapidly. And we have already available methodology to make this diagnosis using simple blood sample. And this brings the promise to disseminate this diagnosis to the entire world. So we were being able to see the invisible. And of course, it's a lot of research still is necessary to understand what is the best way to make this diagnosis, and most importantly to find the cure and to find the treatment. But I think this is an important step, and it's a step that has to be, I think, is conceptually change a lot the way you see dementia, the problem of dementia, and give hopes to find a solution for this problem. So I think in this International Day of Alzheimer's Disease, I'd like to bring the message of hope that we're working very hard as a research community to find a solution for this problem.
Thank you very much, Pedro, for making the diagnosis of dementia quite early and quite quickly, and we don't have to wait till death for autopsy results to make it verifiable. Thank you so much. We now go to our third author, Dr. Jose More, who will be introduced by Dr. Maya Geddes, a member of the center.
Thank you for this honor to introduce Dr. Morey, who is a professor of medicine at McGill University. Dr. Morey is a senior scientist at the Research Institute of the McGill University Health Center, RIMUHC, in the Metabolic Disorders and Complications Axis. And in 2009, he became the director of the Division of Geriatric Medicine at McGill University, as well as the MUHC and Jewish General Hospital. He's also the co-director of the Quebec Network for Research on Aging and is the academic lead of the Dementia Education Program of the McGill Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences. And Dr. Morey was also the founder and first director of the Center of Excellence on Aging and Chronic Disease of the RUISSS at McGill from 2012 until 2015. So it gives me great pleasure. I'm looking forward to hearing your talk. Thanks, Dr. Morey.
Thanks, Maya, for this kind introduction. Hi, everyone. Listening to what Maya was saying, it has to do with the fact that I have been for quite some time in the surroundings, because you cannot do all of this over 1 or 2 years. So do not get impressed. I would say that it has been a very educational experience to participate in this report 2021, because I learned quite a lot through the articles I had to review, and from those that I didn't have to review, but I could not prevent myself for having an eye on it, especially every work done by Dr. Pedro Rosanetto, mainly because it was at the forefront of the field. Obviously, everything done by Dr. Gautier was transpiring, his wisdom as well as his global perception of what the work would consist of, because he was a true leader in this process. And many aspects that one single person cannot cover. And this brought the contribution of Claire as well, was a real perception of the reality of caregivers. In any event, I had a very narrow scope, which was that of the role of the physician in disclosing the diagnosis. Okay, so and through the different articles submitted, I became more sensitive to how to communicate the diagnosis. Mainly because it's quite clear that the questions that the patients and their family members have are not necessarily those that you think it's important. So listen to your patients. What are their concerns about the diagnosis? When the diagnosis is transmitted, physicians have the responsibility to be clear and to, in the constraint of the time, mention the diagnosis with sensitivity and then try to cover as much aspects as possible. We should not be shy to say, we don't know yet, because sometimes in the first meeting, it's impossible to arrive to a diagnosis, and there is a need for follow-up. And the follow-up from the surveys we receive, either from physicians as well as from the caregivers and the patients themselves, is quite globally, it's quite universal, because 90% of patients and families said that they in fact had a follow-up visit, and about 45% of this follow-up visit takes between 2 to 6 months. Physicians' perception is also the same. Now, I would add that there is some challenges during the meeting, the interview, which is the constraint of time, but also how people react to the diagnosis. And, unfortunately, the disease comes with its impact in the brain, and the person suffering from the dementia, it's understanding of his own deficits, the awareness of these problems can be very superficial, so that the term anosognosia fits very well. They don't perceive they have problems, and it's not easy to convince them that they have problems. My own experience with it is very softly ask a few questions, regarding certain dates or even those who don't have education. Just by asking them the names of their grandkids and things of the sort, they feel, that they have difficulty remember these events. And then I make them understand this is because of these difficulties that they are suffering from a condition that I can help with some medication, okay? Still, it's a challenge because it's not always obvious. And another point that was brought in the report is the potential overreaction that we call catastrophic reaction, in which the person suffering from dementia will burst into something, either being fâché or crying or yelling. This is an emotional reaction that cannot be easily controlled, but we have to be patient with them. It's part of their feeling of being overwhelmed with the diagnosis, in the sense that they still perceive that it is a struggle for them on daily basis to do many things that they used to do so easily, and now there is a confirmation of it, can be very stressful. So we have to be patient. And my last point is, I learned that even physicians do have stigma about the disease. Like 30% of physicians around the world do not feel that there is any treatment whatsoever for dementia, which is false. Even though there is not a curative treatment, we can help the person and the family to go through this, it's a chronic disease in which there is ways of making it easier. Okay, and the term used by Mrs. Claire Webster is the journey of dementia that was retained for the title of the report, and I will finish now in my presentation to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. More. I think one of the facts which came out in the report this morning was that the average time that for a good diagnosis to take place by a physician is 30 to 60 minutes. But that's a utopia. In reality, all over the world, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes, which is peanuts. And that is why we don't have a proper diagnosis in many countries, and the people suffer. Anyway, thank you very much. And we now move on to our fourth author, who is Madam Claire Webster, who has become a very well-known name with families dealing with their loved ones suffering from symptoms of dementia, especially Alzheimer's disease. Madame Webster is a certified dementia care consultant, certified professional consultant on aging, as well as a conference speaker and educator in the field of caring for an individual with dementia. She's founder and president of Caregiver Crosswalk, Inc., a consulting firm that provides education and support services to help individuals navigate the journey of Alzheimer's disease and/or dementia-related illnesses. Claire works in collaboration with the McGill University Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences and the Division of Geriatric Medicine. She's the founder and ambassador of the McGill Dementia Education Program and McGill Cares, a weekly webcast service series designed to support family caregivers. Her contribution to the report is very valuable for people dealing daily with this disease. Madam Claire Webster, the floor is all yours.
Well, thank you. I'm so pleased to be here today, and how lucky am I to have had the opportunity to work with these three great men, Dr. Gautier, Rosanetto, and Dr. Moret on this report. I like I said this morning, my journey has led me here, which was a difficult one. I'm a former caregiver to my mother who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 2006. And the prescription of care that we received back then was, "Good luck, Mrs. Webster." And, it was really those three words that I received, I would say that we received in the neurologist's office, that really propelled me to do the work that I'm doing today. My role in the report was really, I've been advocating about the importance of educating, the person who receives a diagnosis as well as the carers about the importance of education, because until there's a cure, education is really the best form of management about the illness. So I had been really, advocating about this, from back in 2010, when I started meeting many individuals like myself who were carers, and the first question I would ask them was, did you receive any information from the doctor? Did you receive any information about the illness? Did you receive any information about support services? And the answer kept coming back, no. And here we are in 2021. And over the years, I've met hundreds and hundreds of individuals like myself, and the answer is still the same: good luck, or see you in 6 months. And so what I was very interested, Dr. Gautier and I kept looking at the results from the survey. One of the questions that I was most fascinated with was what difficulties were encountered as part of receiving the diagnosis of dementia. And it was an overwhelming response, and the response was a lack of information about the illness, as you will see in the report. And this is an illness that has a ripple effect, not only on the person that's diagnosed, but it has a ripple effect on the carers, on people's employment, on the healthcare system. And so, in my own journey as a carer, as I had been witnessing, the demise of my mother, as a sandwich generation caregiver, I started my journey when I was 38 years old, and I was working full time and had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old and 9-year-old. My children bore witness to my own decline. And I truly believe that if I would have been properly educated, properly supported with the right information, not only about the illness, but about the support services that are out there. How do you navigate the healthcare system? How do you access this? It would have had a significant impact on the quality of care that my mother received. And it would have had a very big impact also on my own health and well-being. Very typical of carers like myself, this illness leads to a very high level of caregiver burnout, from which I suffered a very severe one in 2011, and for which I'm very open about in many of my webcasts and blogs. And it not that education would have made, it's still a very challenging journey to witness the decline, but it could have had a great impact even on her quality of life. When you're searching for residences or home care support, there's so much information that's required. So in this report, I share my journey in chapter 16. I do not believe that my journey is any more difficult than many other people around the world that are going through it. I'm just somebody who's chosen to share my journeys with the hope of helping others and creating change. What we also talked about in this report is the impact of COVID. So we heard a lot about the impact in long-term care facilities and the number of people with dementia who passed away. But what we don't hear enough about is that the impact that this had on carers, people who are caring for loved ones at home, who are not educated, who were perhaps before COVID receiving support services, home care support, who were bringing their loved ones to different organizations like AGI and Alzheimer's Society for day programs. And then all of a sudden that ceases to happen. So we talk a lot about the impact of isolation, not only on the person who has the illness, but on carers. So we have a whole chapter devoted to that. And what I would also like to bring up is that, so as Dr. Gautier mentioned, and we all mentioned in next year's report, we're really going to be focusing on post-diagnostic management and support, what we call the prescription of care, according to the experts here at McGill. So the focus on next year's report is really going to be talking more about, the stages of the illness and then stage-specific pharmacological and non-pharmacological approaches. We're going to also be focusing on the impact on young carers, which Dr. Rosanetto is very familiar with, right? So the people that are diagnosed with early onset dementia, the carers are oftentimes university students or young teenagers, for example, and we don't hear enough about the impact that it has on their lives. We will also be focusing on caregiving customs around the world, because the definition of caregiving in one country doesn't necessarily mean it's the same in other countries and among different cultures, and what some of the challenges that diverse cultural communities are facing. We're going to be talking about the latest research in preventive cognitive decline and which governments are having the best strategies around the world to support carers and persons living with dementia. But one of the most important facets that we are going to be looking at in next year's report is the question of why. Why are people not being provided with enough information at the point of diagnosis? What is being taught to the medical students and allied healthcare professionals in the medical universities around the world? What is missing? And that is going to be a very important role, because a very important part of the report, because we will hope then to make some recommendations. I'm very honored that McGill University has embraced the McGill Dementia Education Program. I had absolutely no prior affiliation to the university. I did not attend. I had no affiliation, and I'm just a regular citizen who knocked on the door of the university with this idea, and they welcomed me. And because of that, now we have an opportunity to introduce more of the person-patient-centered approach in the classroom to the medical, to the students of different faculties. So we're hoping that we could share our template with the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire, for sharing your experience with us. But it is very unfortunate that you were not given the proper information about the disease at the time of your mother's diagnosis and evolution. The memory clinics in Montreal and the Alzheimer's Society of Montreal and the Alzheimer Group have been doing this for the past 20 years with support groups and training sessions, and we have been teaching medical students and residents on the non-pharmacological approaches to management. We have heard from our illustrious expert authors, And we now invite our partners in the community, the Alzheimer's Society of Montreal and the Alzheimer Group, who will take the recommendations of this report, your recommendations, to their constituencies to implement. This morning, we heard the testimonial from Roger Maple from Canada, an early diagnosed gentleman who spoke of the value of Alzheimer's societies and how they have helped him and people like him to navigate the loneliness imposed by the isolation of the pandemic. The Alzheimer's societies have the responsibilities of supplying information to the families to prepare them for what to expect as the years go by. We start with Madame Jean Day, the Executive Director of the Alzheimer's Society of Montreal. Jean Day, Directrice Générale de Société Alzheimer de Montréal, riche de ses expériences de gestion auprès de fondations, elle est passionnée par la santé globale et le mieux-être des personnes. Depuis quelques années, elle s'intéresse aux enjeux de la personne vieillissante. Elle est fière d'ouvrir un sein de la Société Alzheimer de Montréal depuis janvier 2021 et de soutenir de divers services et programmes. Les clientèles vivant avec des troubles neurocognitifs ainsi que les proches aidants. Madame Day, the floor is yours. Can you please give us your viewpoints?
Thank you, Dr. Daster. Thank you, Claire, for inviting me to that great event. I really appreciate being there with you and sharing this great event about the report, the World Alzheimer Day, to the World Alzheimer Day. I'm coming from the global health promotion in the workplace and the prevention. So everything that I learned this morning on the webinar about the importance of the early detection and all the support to the people living with Alzheimer's disease are really aligned with my challenge and my goals with my team at the Society Alzheimer of Montreal. At the Alzheimer Society, we have plenty of programs and services that we are offering either for patients living with dementia and for caregiver. We have some particular services for either the patients, either for the caregiver, or either for both of them in terms of partnership with either the caregiver and the person living with the disease. And we also have programs and services for healthcare professional. So in terms of caregiver, we have different training that we're offering, different webinar. We have project with art therapy for caregiver in partnership with McGill University with the What's Link Us. So this is a great program in partnership with you guys. We also have different support groups. We have weekly support groups and monthly support groups. For people living with dementia, we also have the art therapy groups, the individual consultation, and we also have the activity center in the weekend that's reopening at mid-October this year. For both, when we have activities for either the caregiver and the person living with the disease, we have the in-home respite and stimulation that works well in Montreal area. We also have the activity center that's going to be opening probably the end of fall or early next year. It's the activity center that's been created in our office and where we'll be receiving either caregiver and patient living with dementia. For the professional healthcare, we also have public conference on different topics. We have introduction to Alzheimer's disease and communication strategy. We have caring for the caregiver. We have conference about visiting someone with dementia, what you should know. We have what you should know about the Alzheimer's disease also. Concerning different workshop for professional, we have understanding Alzheimer's disease and related disorder. That I think that's really important. We also have communication in action, memories footprint, daily living with Alzheimer's disease, routines and activities. So these are quite some of the activities and programs and services that we do offer to our different publics. We also have the référencement with First Link that is going to be taking more spaces in the next few weeks, where we collaborate with CIUS and CIS on the island of Montreal, who they will refer us some patient that just been diagnosed with the trouble neurocognitive or moderate or too light diagnosis. We also launched a program this year, acts on prevention, that is called Ma Santé Cognitive, where we work on 4 pillars. We work on healthy habits, we work on sleep habit, nutrition, physical activities, and social network also. So it's 5 pillars that we work on it, and it's a great program that's been initiated from one of our colleagues and her team at the Société of Montréal, and I think she's on the call today, Sarah. So chapeau to you, Sarah, and your team. We also have a nice collaboration in terms of communication, external communication, and a reach out on the island of Montreal with Montréal en Santé, where we'll be collaborating for 4 different division article. So we have one article that's going to be launched on October 1st regarding families and dementia. So I invite you to look at it. I know that McGill University and Claire also collaborate with this magazine. And we also have each year our colloquium in January, in the month of the awareness of Alzheimer's disease. So this year will be our second colloquium in virtual, where we have different topic and different experts that come and share different knowledge to the health professional. So that's about it on everything we do at the society. I'm there only since January, so I'm still making some great learnings, and I'm still looking forward to collaborate with all of you in terms of awareness, in terms of prevention and early detection. So any help, any collaboration is welcome from me and my team at Alzheimer's Society of Montreal. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Madame Day, for giving us this overhead of all the activities which is provided by the Alzheimer's Society. And now we move to the Alzheimer group, which is on the west side of the island. And we invite Megan Williams, the Director of Support Services, to give her perspective of the report. Megan has been working at the Alzheimer group for the last 14 years. After completing her Master of Social Work at McGill University, she began working at AGI as a counselor, providing support to families, facilitating support groups, and training to professionals. Now, in her role as Director of Support Services, Megan is responsible for ensuring that AGI programs continue to respond to the needs of the families and individuals with the diagnosis of dementia. Megan represents the group on the Education Committee. Megan, can you please give us your perspective?
Thank you, Dolly. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Megan Williams, and yes, I'm the Director of Support Services at Alzheimer Group, otherwise known as AGI. Alzheimer Group is a charitable organization that offers therapeutic programs to individuals living with Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. Additionally, AGI provides support services to families and professional care partners, focusing on best practices in dementia care while sensitizing the community at large through education and awareness. I'm honored to be here today, along with my esteemed colleagues and community partners, to mark this important day. World Alzheimer's Day not only acknowledges individuals who are living with dementia and raises awareness about their shared experiences, their daily challenges and victories, the day also highlights the struggles, strength, resilience of their care partners and loved ones. At AGI, we see firsthand how a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease can change a family. Research plays a pivotal role in understanding the cause of the disease and is our best hope for the development of effective treatments. However, until there's a cure, we need to support these families with services and programs that break isolation and foster connection preserve emotional well-being, and provide education so that they are equipped with the tools to make each day a little bit easier. For more than 37 years, Alzheimer Group has been a support to people living with dementia and the people who support them. AGI is a guide throughout the dementia experience, offering innovative programs that strive to address the needs of the entire family, from diagnosis to bereavement. We are by their side for the long haul. Over the past year, AGI developed virtual programming to help isolated families throughout the pandemic. We continue to help families navigate the healthcare system, understand challenging behaviors, and respond to the grief through counseling, support groups, and our educational workshops and lectures. Now we are working towards a safe resumption for some in-person services, including our popular therapeutic day program for people living with dementia. These social groups run by professional recreation and creative art therapists are essential for bolstering emotional, physical, and intellectual well-being. Agi Center is a safe space where people diagnosed with dementia are valued, connect with peers, and experience a sense of belonging. Social connections are nurtured and feelings of competency are fostered through shared activities, including art, music, and dance therapies, intellectual pursuits, and exercise. Participants develop pride through accomplishments, skill acquisition, and support for one another with opportunities for connection and nurturance. At Alzheimer Group, we strongly believe that despite a life-changing diagnosis, life with dementia can be well-lived. Families, care partners, and people living with dementia are encouraged to reach out for support, speak with a counselor, join one of our support groups. Our support groups are divided depending on the relationship with the person. That includes spousal support groups, adult children support groups. We will be having a bereavement support group starting up also in the fall. Learn strategies to make each day easier. Education is key, as Claire has mentioned and Ms. Day has mentioned. Learning a little bit about what's happening with the disease will help give an understanding about what behaviors are happening and how you yourselves as care partners can help with the person with dementia. Just knowing that there's someone out there is invaluable. Remember, you are not alone. Alzheimer's disease needs a community, and you can make AGI and other organizations part of your community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Megan, but I want to also thank all the speakers up till now who has given us an excellent presentations. And now the floor is open to the public, to the people who are attending for any questions and you would like to pose to any of them. So write your questions in the chat box and Caitlin will be monitoring the chat box. So I will ask you the first question to all these authors, and maybe one of you could answer. You said that the whole process took just 6 months to put this report together. I mean, that's a marvelous feat to put a, 300, 500 page report together. You know, how did you do it? I mean, did you allocate different portions to different people? What did you have support staff, or the Alzheimer's Society, not Alzheimer's Society, also International supported you throughout the process? How did you do this? It's a big task.
So I'll start to answer, but everybody can pitch in. I think it was just the exact amount of, the chemistry was just perfect in terms of the leading team, the 4 of us. The interaction with ADI was regular. We were able to get the essays out quickly enough to get good feedback, the surveys rather, and then the essays, because I think only 2 people refused the invitation out of like 55, and only 1 person defaulted at the last minute. So incredible support from the clinical and research community. In a way, it helps that it is a short-term project, Dolly, because look, you got 6 months. You just have to do it. if it's a regular textbook, it's usually stretching over 2 years and people are late to bring in their stuff and then it drags on and on. So I'll leave it at for now. Yep, Claire?
Yes.
No, I wanted to add that, well, first of all, Dr. Gautier was, like I said earlier, was an amazing quarterback. I mean, he really, really led this and made sure that we were all really doing what we needed to do. We had the support of a wonderful coordinator who I know is listening, Carol. So she was really tremendous. But I think what Dr. Gautier mentioned, we had fantastic chemistry and we were all very respectful of our areas of expertise. And that made a big difference because, you know, we all focused on the areas that we knew the best. And you know, it was just, I think when a team works well together and you have the right chemistry and the right support system behind you, you know, anything can happen. So.
May I add something?
Yes, please.
There was obviously some weekends and evenings work on that too.
Much to say. If your families didn't appreciate that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, there is ways of doing it, and I think that Dr. Rosanetto would tell his techniques because it was incredible the amount of work he produced in so little time as well. So we're all learning from each other. Yes. Dr.
Rosanetto, what's your technique?
No, there is no technique here. It's just working with the, you know, with Dr. Gautier is around, things will get done.
Yeah, the whip in his hand.
No, I think there's an incredible leadership. I think the chemistry was good, but the report there was other people who contribute to the report. So. Because the target population of the report was so diverse, I think we had to adapt a lot of the contents. We have to simplify the language. We have to remove some contents. We have to make it a little palatable for a wide leadership. I think this was another process that was a hidden part of the entire composition, and that was somehow that has to be highlighted. I think it's very difficult actually to come up with a very complex concepts and in such a period of time. But I think the vision, you know, and this I have to be fair. Dr. Gautier has a very good vision, and he knew exactly where to put actually the bricks in order to have this house built. So I think it was very nice actually, and I learned a lot from this process. Another important thing is the authorship was one of the requirements is to have people around the world. So it was somehow very difficult actually to deal with our local colleagues that have the entire merit to be part of this report. But we have actually to defer this to individuals from other continents and other countries, and I think there was an important part of the report. So I think it was a great exercise, and I think if you ask me if this would be possible to do in 6 months, I would say no, but you know, because we have Dr. Leadership, the leadership of Serge, which is a catalyzer, you know, things are somehow possible. I don't know. That's my personal impression.
I agree 100%. From the moment we received you know, the content, the chapters, the topics, and I would say from the outset there was probably half of the authors already being suggested for us to do the context, which he did most of them. So incroyable. So a lot of credit goes to Dr. Gautier, what his experience, it's wisdom, and a way of leading that is a collaborative way, very stimulating for all of us. So it was I appreciate that, especially because I need some push to come at the dates of deadlines. So,
and I think what the pandemic has also shown us is the power of Zoom. You know, the ability for all of us to meet very regularly. I mean, prior to COVID, we would have had to displace ourselves and go to individuals' offices, and with the doctors who still manage, who are like Dr. Moret, who often spoke to us from his car, going from hospital to hospital or from clinic to clinic, that would have really been difficult. But the power of technology and Zoom really made it so that we could really meet together and efficiently and frequently.
I think the pandemic has the silver lining in the Zoom. Without Zoom, we couldn't have done half the things which we're doing today.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much. Now, who else would have some questions to ask our elite speakers?
We have a question in the chat box here. So it says, un récent article dans les médias grand public présente une technique d'imagerie, TEP, pour mesurer, observer et calculer le délai avant l'apparition des symptômes. Est-ce que les travaux de cette équipe de Washington dirigée par Suzanne Schindler sont prometteurs et accessibles aux gens de Montréal et ailleurs?
Who would like to answer that?
Peut-être c'est moi. Oui, ça c'est une chose très très importante aujourd'hui. Sont la technique pour détecter la maladie et pour faire la liaison entre la présence de processus pathologiques et le début des symptômes. Donc, si j'ai bien compris, la question demande si les techniques est peut-être disponible ici. Je ne comprends pas exactement le début de la question.
Oui, si c'est accessible ici à Montréal.
Oui, c'est disponible ici dans le contexte de la recherche. C'est très, très important de bien comprendre que l'utilisation de ces techniques sont restrictes au niveau clinique. Nous utilisons les biomarqueurs et la prédiction dans le contexte de recherche, spécialement pour les patients qui apportent la forme atypique de la maladie d'Alzheimer. Ce sont les patients qui apportent des difficultés de parler, des difficultés d'utiliser les mains pour faire les mouvements, des difficultés aussi de bien comprendre, de comprendre les informations au niveau du langage. Donc, les applications sont très, très restrictes. Pourquoi? Parce qu'il n'y a pas un traitement aujourd'hui efficace pour ça. Donc, s'il n'y a pas un traitement, il n'y a pas vraiment raison de faire un diagnostic très, très précis à ce moment. Est-ce que vous êtes d'accord, Dr. Gautier?
Oui, mais ça peut changer rapidement. Alors, on y fait référence dans le rapport que les nouvelles molécules arrivent bientôt pour enlever l'amyloïde du cerveau, mais c'est pas tout le monde qui a les symptômes de maladie d'Alzheimer qui a de l'amyloïde dans le cerveau. Et on aura d'autres webinaires avec les experts en octobre pour discuter cette nouveauté dans le rapport, que tous les gens qui ont les symptômes d'Alzheimer n'ont pas les mêmes protéines dans le cerveau et que certains traitements seront applicables pour peut-être la moitié des gens et d'autres traitements pour d'autres. So I'll just summarize in English briefly because that's an important point that I'm allowed to bring up is that people with symptoms that look like dementia due to Alzheimer may have in their brain less of certain proteins than others, and some of the new treatments that are coming will be applicable to some people, but not all. So we foresee that in the next 2 to 5 years, there has to be a match between new diagnostic procedures for the cause of the dementia and new treatments that are personalized for everyone based on their biological makeup.
Yeah, to complement what Dr. Gautier said, there is several studies showing that if you take the best doctors in the world, they will make a wrong diagnosis in about 20 out of 100 people. So it's not because the doctors are not very good; it's because there are several diseases that cause the same symptoms.
Just want to make a point that the contribution of the volunteers in the triad cohort, the BOV, are are very important, and this is partly why we got the contract. Pedro and our team has been able to publish incredible information based on the findings of those volunteers from the Greater Montreal area, people who agreed to have PET scans of their brain, spinal tap, and blood. And the blood was sent to Sweden, and we found that there are blood markers potentially usable for more accurate diagnosis of the cause of dementia. So I want to pay homage to all these volunteers. Some of them may be listening to us right now. Alors, quelques mots pour remercier les volontaires dans la cohorte BioVie. C'est grâce à vous qu'on a pu observer que certaines protéines dans le sang reflètent ce qui se passe dans le cerveau. Et les publications qu'on a eues avec ces données ont contribué peut-être au fait qu'on a pu écrire ce rapport et passer le message à travers le monde entier qu'il y a de l'espoir pour un diagnostic plus précis avec des tests peu coûteux et sans danger, une simple prise de sang chez des gens qui ont déjà des symptômes.
I think the role of volunteers is very, very important in all diseases and all aspects of the disease, because without volunteers, nothing can happen. The government can't do everything. So thank you for reminding us of that. We'll move on to the next item, which is a bilingual video participation testimonial.
There's been many decades of research, and it's been very slow and a very hard and difficult disease to combat. So the fact that there's whole teams of people and money put into the research and the time and effort makes me feel good about it.
Ça a changé ma perception totalement, parce qu'en sachant que je peux agir sur la maladie pour éventuellement survivre à la maladie, parce qu'éventuellement il va y avoir de la médication, ça a changé totalement ma perspective face à l'Alzheimer. Fait que c'est pour ça qu'à un moment donné, c'est probablement la meilleure décision que j'ai prise dans toute ma vie de participer à ce centre-là, puis c'est quelque chose que je ne voudrais jamais qu'il arrête.
C'est très accueillant, le personnel est chaleureux, attentionné, les horaires sont respectés. Au moment où on arrive, on est pris en charge, il n'y a pas de longues attentes, tout est bien orchestré et le personnel est très gentil, très avenant. Alors, c'est une expérience agréable.
Allez-y avec votre façon de vivre, votre façon de penser, votre fort intérieur, parce qu'il n'y a aucun danger, c'est tellement sécurisant, l'équipe est tellement enveloppante, que ce soit la secrétaire, l'étudiante ou la recherchiste ou même le technicien en radiologie, tout le monde sont là pour vous appuyer ou vous aider, mais en fait, il n'y a rien de dangereux. Tout ce qu'on peut faire, c'est rendre service, dans le fond.
C'est les gens qui font partie du centre, les gens sont vraiment attentionnés, hyper professionnels. On sent vraiment faire partie de l'équipe de recherche. C'est quand même impressionnant. Le professionnalisme de l'équipe est extraordinaire. Je vois des jeunes qui s'inscrivent dans ces domaines de recherche-là. C'est vraiment impressionnant, puis j'adore ça.
I'm the kind of person that's curious about the world, and this experience has been a very positive one for me, as well as I feel I'm doing some good for perhaps combating this horrific disease of Alzheimer's so it can be beat in the future.
J'invite les gens à essayer, s'ils veulent contribuer à la recherche, de ne pas hésiter, puis à tout moment, s'ils désirent se retirer, ils peuvent le faire. Ça nous incite à continuer à participer à des recherches. Si c'était toujours comme ça, je pense qu'il y a beaucoup de monde qui participerait.
Now, for the closing remarks. What a wonderful journey we have had today. We got a ringside view of how world reports on difficult subjects are conceived and developed by experts from around the world. It gave us an idea as to how many people all around the world are working to solve the puzzle of this devastating disease, which destroys both the person who has the disease and the person looking after them. Some of the recommendations are from the report this came out this morning are an annual brain checkup for people over 50, the right for a timely clinical diagnosis, to build on technology-based approaches, and the government must prepare for the tsunami of demand for healthcare services as a result of global aging. We should take all these recommendations very seriously to implement them so we could see the light a little closer to the end of the tunnel. I thank you all for joining us today on this exciting journey, and I thank our 4 authors for giving us the valuable time and sharing their experiences in preparing the report after spending a hectic morning at the official launch. A grand merci. Since the beginning of the pandemic, the Education Committee of the McGill Center has organized the Brainy Boomer lecture series every Tuesday from 12 noon to 1 p.m. on subjects of interest and benefit to seniors and some juniors as well. It is given by experts in the field. Do register. The link is in the chat box. We also organize an exercise class once a week every Thursday for seniors who are at home due to the pandemic shutdown. The Education Committee also organizes annual health days and biannual seminars. I will now request Dr. Rosanetto, the director of the center, to give his closing remarks.
Merci. Donc, au nom de notre équipe clinique et de notre équipe de recherche, c'est un jour international de la maladie d'Alzheimer. Je voudrais laisser un message d'espoir à tous les patients, ainsi comme les membres d'équipe touchés par cette terrible maladie. Je tiens également à vous rassurer que notre équipe travaille en plein régime pour apporter nos dernières découvertes scientifiques en tant que nouvelles thérapies pour soulager le douleur et les souffrances causées par la maladie d'Alzheimer. Je tiens également, comme Dr. Gautier, à exprimer ma gratitude à tous nos patients et les participants de la recherche qui sont joints à nos efforts pour lutter contre la maladie d'Alzheimer. Ensemble, nous trouverons la solution pour cette maladie. For everybody who participates in the research and who is part of they are our partners, and we together we will try to stop this disease. Thank you so much for your effort. Thank you so much, Dr. Gautier, for helping to make during your career to fight against the disease. And I wish a good day to everyone.